Hello, my name is Laura Cifuentes, and I'm going to be guiding you through the first session of the training of my English method for children, mainly 3 to 6 years old, but also for 6 to 9 with some modifications. The method that I'm going to talk about, my method and my sister's method, it's called My World in Words. It's a method that we came up with by trying things, by observing the children, by seeing their reactions, and learning from their responses to what we were doing with them, and improving on that, improving, adding, changing, modifying, until we've come up with this method that it's final, that I've been using for the last 15 years with children in Montessori schools, this first session is theoretical. I know that people like to go straight into hands-on, into doing, into seeing and touching materials, but it is important to have a theory base. You need to hear some things that will help you to program and plan a better class. So what is important to know? You probably know it already because you work with children this age, 3 to 6 year old children, but it's maybe you haven't thought about it, or you haven't put an extra thought into what characteristics are important to teaching English as a second language. So what are our children like? Preschoolers are very self-centered. They only care about themselves. How does that affect us? We have to think of themes and topics that interest them, because we want them to be motivated, to be interested in what they're doing. To get them interested, it has to be things that they care, things that are part of their world, part of their lives, and that they want to talk about. That's it, My World in Words. We're going to give the words to talk about their world. So what have we done? We have chosen 14 themes very carefully, and these themes are interconnected. You can't just go, okay, I'll do this theme today and I'll do that theme tomorrow. You have to follow the order, because it's been planned so that the following theme is related to the previous theme. We'll talk later about what these 14 themes are, but just to give you an idea, we start with colors and shapes. We continue with the body. Then if we've done body, we do clothes, because clothes cannot come before body. We need to know where we put our hat on, where we put our shoes on. We put them on our feet. We put our gloves on our hands. So we need to do body before we do clothes. This is to give you an idea of how it works. Then after clothes, we'll go, for example, to food, what we eat. And food and senses. When we do body, we've done senses as well. Then after that is clothes. After that is food. Food will be related to body. It will be related to senses. When we finish with food, we can do the home. The home is related to food, because we eat food in the kitchen on particular objects that we're going to learn when we do the home. And it goes like this. And there are 14 themes. Apart from these 14 themes, there are also transversal themes that are very important, but they're much shorter. There's much less vocabulary in these transversal themes, so they will be presented in the same way as the normal themes, but they will turn into routines that will be repeated very, very frequently, very often, so that the children really take those words and those structures and they can use them then in real life. So all of this to say that because they're self-centered, we've prepared a program where the topics are related to what they care about, not about other things, just what is important to them. They need repetition, because these children cannot read yet. When we want to learn something as grown-ups, we go and read it. We read it, and we can read it again and read it again. Even if I forget, I can go back and read it again. Children cannot read, so they need to get only oral input, and that's all they have. So repetition is very important for them, and naturally they love repetition. You've all experienced how when you tell a story for the 10th time is when they love it best. And if you tell it 20 times, they will love it even better. And when you are sick of the story and you cannot hear it one more time, the children are just enjoying it the most. And that's also when a child learning English, when they've heard the story 20 times, when they will get the best, the most of it, because then they will know the sentences by heart, they'll be able to complete what you're saying. That's when the story is useful. So this is fantastic that they need repetition. We're going to give them loads of repetition because it's the only way to make them learn or to help them to learn. Their concentration span is very, very short. So we need to give them very short activities. We can't stay there for a long time because they just can't stand it physically and mentally. It's impossible. So very short activities. Our circle time, our English time is going to be made of very short activities. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Sometimes 15 if they're really engaged, but usually 5, 10, it's a good time for an activity. This is because their concentration span is so short. They also need a lot of variety and movement. They need variety because although they need repetition, we're not going to repeat everything exactly the same every time. We're going to die of boredom and they're going to die of boredom. So there has to be repetition, but in a varied way. What does that mean? We're going to use different materials to do the same thing. They're going to be doing the exact same thing, the exact same language, with the same flashcards, but they're going to be doing something different. Sometimes they're going to be fishing with a magnet, sometimes they're going to be pointing with a pointer, sometimes they're going to be putting a counter on the flashcard, but what they're saying and what they're learning is exactly the same. They need movement. If they sit like I'm sitting for more than, 5 minutes, they can't. It's physically impossible for them. They need to move. So you need to make sure that your exercises or your activities or what you're doing in your English time is varied. You go from a sitting down activity, quiet activity like fishing, and then we do a song where maybe there is movement and jumping, or an activity where the children have to go pick up something, bring it to you. So there is movement. They also need security. They control nothing. We control everything. So to feel secure or safe, they need to have a routine that at least they can learn, and tomorrow or in a few days they will know that, okay, Laura starts by saying hello, then she will do a little routine, and then she will present some materials using some whatever, then she will read us a story, and then we will sing a song, and then we will say goodbye. So that gives them security. They know what's happening. Humans, we don't like the unknown. So to give them security, we give them a routine that will continue over time so that they will always have the same routine. The activities change, but the routine is the same. This is important. And also, we never ever set them for failure. We always set them for success. What does this mean? You will never ask a child, what is this, if you're not certain that the child knows what is this. It's a horse. But how do I know that he knows that it's a horse? It's because I've been doing period 2 activities, like in Montessori, period 1, period 2, period 3. The child has pointed every time I've asked him, where is the horse? The horse is here. Where is the horse? The horse is here. So I know that he always finds the horse. He knows where the horse is. So when I'm very sure that he knows it, I can ask him, what is this? It's a horse. So we never set them for failure. We always set them for success. It's very important. Children are in a very sensitive period for language. Their own mother tongue is developing, and therefore it's a perfect time to introduce any other language apart from their mother tongue. A child is capable of learning several languages at the same time if it's done in the proper way. What is the proper way? First of all, it has to be natural. It has to be done with enough input, with logic. For example, in my case, I am Spanish speaking. My mother tongue is Spanish. My husband is French, so he speaks French. We have 2 kids. I will always talk to them in Spanish. That's natural, that's normal. So that's what they've always been learning since they were born. But my husband would always talk to them in French because that's his language, that's what is normal to him. So they've learned 2 languages naturally. My husband and I talk in English because we always have. We met when at the time I could not speak French, he could not speak Spanish. So the only way we had to communicate was in English. So our children have also always heard English at home, and they've grown up with it, and they've come to the schools where I worked, so they've learned English with me and my students together. So now they also have English. Could they have learned Italian as well? Well, if we were living in Italy, they could have learned Spanish, English, Spanish, French, English, and Italian, because they live in Italy, and they are capable of doing that. There are thousands of children in the world doing that every day. So what we're going to do here is going to work, because we're going to do it right, because we are paying attention to all these characteristics that are very important. They are very imaginative, their imagination is working there big time, and although Montessori is not in favor of fantasy, on the contrary, she wanted to show children only reality, I don't agree 100% with that, and I do bring fantasy into my work. You have to consider if it's okay with you or not, but I have done a lot of research, and I really think that it doesn't hurt them to get fantasy in some materials that I use. They know what is real and what is not. They can make that distinction. And I can even verbalize it if you feel, or you can, if you feel more comfortable. You can say, do animals talk? No, but in this book, animals talk, because it's a book. It's not real. You can write in a book, in a story, whatever you want. So that's why animals here are talking, but they usually don't talk. We know that. So you can tell them that, but I use fantasy, and fantasy helps a lot. Puppets help me a lot. What a child will not do for me or with me observing, they will do it with a puppet. So I use puppets a lot. They need concrete experiences. They need to use their 5 senses. They need to touch, feel, smell, move. Things cannot just be flat. They cannot just be sitting. They cannot just be looking. They have to hear, they have to touch, they have to see, they have to use all the senses. If you can introduce smelling when you're doing the senses, well, bring real things that they can smell for real. You don't just pretend, or you don't talk about smells, you bring things to smell. When you're doing tasting, when you're doing the 5 senses tasting, you bring things to taste. This is salty, and you give them a sample of something that they can taste, taking care of allergies, of course. We don't want to get anybody sick. Make sure none of your children have allergies, and then you can bring food in the class and make them taste and see, this is salty, this is sweet, this is savory, this is sour, this is whatever. Preschoolers are very curious. They want to know. So you bring something, they want to know what is inside. You're going to tell a story, they want to know what happens in the story, they want to know the end of the story, they want to know what's happening today, they want to know. This is great, because everything we're going to bring them, if we do it right, they're going to want to know, they're going to want to learn. And they're very quick learners. They learn like a sponge. Like we always talk about the sponge. They are like a sponge. They learn so fast and so quick. Just remember that they only have you for input. There is no input around them, only you. So you have to give them enough. But if you give them enough and of the right type and the right quality and in the right amount, they will learn, because they are very quick learners, and they're in the sensitive period for learning languages. Another great thing is that many of them, they lack self-consciousness. They are not embarrassed. They can do things that grown-ups would be like, oh, no, that's too embarrassing, like talking to a camera, for example. But they are not like that. They just do it. They just do whatever. They make voices, they can pretend, they can jump. They're not embarrassed. They will repeat much better than a grown-up who's grown into being self-conscious. So this is a part of what I wanted to tell you today, theoretically, the characteristics of the preschooler. The second part is input. I've mentioned it, but I want to insist. Input is what we're going to give them. That's the only way they will have to learn. They will get our input. What does this input have to be like? It has to be interactive. We don't want one-sided input, which is what I'm doing with you. I'm just talking, but you cannot ask me questions. I cannot answer by pointing, by showing, by doing something. You just listen to me, but you're grown-ups. Our children, they need interactive input. It's not television that they need. It's not a little iPod or iPad or telephone. They need a person that negotiates meaning, that is explaining something. If I say, go get the ball, and they don't understand, I say, go get the ball, and I do it. I get the ball and I bring it, and now I say, you do it, go get the ball. They will understand. They will go get the ball. So they now know that this is a ball, and go get the ball means go there, get the ball, and bring it back. Go get the ball. Go get the car. I will put a car then, and they will understand, because go get, they already know it. Now there is a car. Go get the car. They will go get the car. So now I've got with them go get and ball and car. So there is negotiation of meaning. When there is one-sided input, there is no negotiation of meaning. So don't think that making them sit in front of a television, DVD, iPod, iPad, whatever, is good enough. It's not. It could be reinforcement later on, once they've already learned something in negotiating interactive input. Then you can support it or encourage it or increase it by showing them a little song or whatever that does exactly what we've done in the class, sings exactly what we've sung here, and it will help them to remember and refresh. But that will not substitute the interactive input. Another important thing is that we're going to be giving the children the whole language and the parts. The whole language is when I'm going to be talking in English like I'm talking to you all the time at normal speed, normal language. I'm going to always use so that this language, which is the one they need to get the intonation, to get the rhythm, to get the musicality of the language. And the accent, my accent, but they will hear other accents because I will play CDs or DVDs, or DVDs maybe not, but CDs, yes. They will hear, stories being told in a CD. They will hear other voices. And we'll get guests, and there will be always 2 teachers in the class, so they will be used to different ways of talking in English. But it is essential that they get the whole language. That is not enough to learn English. Talking to them in English all the time is not enough to learn English. They need also the parts, the little blocks that form the language, the prepositions, the adjectives, the actions, the nouns, the little structures, the auxiliaries. And all of that will come from what we call English time, ellipse time, circle time. There are many names for this, where we will sit and work on these famous 14 topics that I've talked about. So if we're on animals, we're going to work for 7 weeks on animals, and I'm going to show them the words to name the animals, the parts of the animals, the trunk of the elephant, the tusks, the legs, the ears, the big ears. We're going to use adjectives for certain animals, like big animals, tall animals, scary animals, jumpy animals, like a frog that jumps. They're going to get adjectives, actions, nouns, prepositions, all that is related to animals, and then with the other themes the same. So they're getting the whole language when I'm talking in English normally all the time, and then the little parts of the language, so that eventually the whole will join the parts and the parts will join the whole. That's the idea. I don't know if you can see this metaphor, but for me it's very clear. Let me just repeat again. Our objective in My World in Words is to give the children the words to talk about their world. And how are we going to do this? As I just said, with the whole and with the part. And for the planning of the units of these parts, remember that the characteristics of a preschooler are very important. Now, what are the factors that would be important in the success of the acquisition of the second language? That would be motivation. Motivation has to be top, top, top. How do we get that? Well, the themes are appropriate, so that will help. You have to be always top, 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 always happy, always engaging, always full of energy, always wanting to help them to be nice, to be happy, to all of this is necessary to put motivation really high. Repetition, we need repetition. If we don't repeat, they won't learn. But remember that not boring repetition, varied repetition. We need to have some fun. We need variety in also the type of exercises. I know that I'm repeating myself, but all of these things are so important. You really need to keep them in mind. What can you expect? Your child, who is 3, 4, or 5, has been learning French, if that's the language that they have, or Spanish or English or whatever, since they were born. And if they're 3 now, they can understand. They can speak, but in a very limited way still. When they are 4, the expression will be freer and more fluid, and there will be more vocabulary. We say normally that by the end of 5 is when they've completed the basics of their mother tongue. So we're talking about 5 years of full immersion, that is everybody talking to them in French or Spanish or English or whatever. Mom, dad, brothers, sisters, grandma, grandpa, the supermarket, the school, the teachers, everybody. Television, music, everything. So it took them 5 years So I'm just saying this because some people say, I'm paying a lot of money for my school to teach English to my child. He's been there for 2 years and he still doesn't speak English. Well, that's absolutely normal. How long did it take you to speak English? I mean, we can't expect a child to speak English in 2 years. I can expect children to learn English in 3 years if this method that I'm trying to transmit is applied appropriately. So this is my expectation, that in 3 years, many children, well, all of the children will definitely understand English, and many of them will be able to speak. Some in a more fluid way, some in a less fluid way, but they will be able to communicate in English. So this is what I'm offering. Again, you never force a child to say something if they're not ready. You don't force them to speak, because the way a child learns is they stalk, and when the mass of vocabulary and structures and the amount of repetition is there, then they start speaking. For some children it's earlier, for some it's later. We can't change that. We can't modify it, we cannot force it. If we force it, we break the process and they will reject it and they won't want it anymore. So you have to be very careful. Errors. We do not correct. This is a Montessori inspired method, and in Montessori we don't correct. In this method, My World in Words, we don't correct. So what do? If the child says, Laura, up, I ask, you want to go up? And the child might say, no, the balloon is up, or I try to find out what the child is trying to tell me until we determine what it is, and the child says, yes, the balloon is up. And then I repeat it again, so that the child here, that is not just up, is the balloon is up. But I don't correct him. I just say, the balloon is up. I haven't corrected, I haven't said no, I haven't asked, I haven't pointed to the mistake. It's not important. He expressed something, it's fantastic. He talked to me in English. I just rephrase the sentence so that he hears the appropriate way of saying it in English. Essential as well that you know is that everything that is shown to the children is using the 3-period lesson that we all know from Montessori. So this is a cow, this is a dog, this is a cat. Can you show me the cat? Can you show me the dog? Can you show me the, whatever I said, the horse? And then in the 3rd period, when we've been doing second period for so long, and I know they know it, then I will say, what is this? What is this? What is this? Now the child is producing. That's the 3rd period. We use this for everything. The 3-period lesson. The last thing I wanted to tell you is that the child is going to start by just saying words. Then he's going to say little sentences. And little by little, he's going to start saying full sentences. And that's the incipient bilingualism, which is going to happen probably on the 3rd year, at a moment that could change. Some children is at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and sometimes at the end of the year. But it happens, and when it happens, you have to be very ready to give them more, to give them what they need, to motivate them, to show them that you're understanding what they're telling you, that it's working, that they're communicating, that they got it. And this is more or less what I wanted to tell you as for the theory, which you can find in the materials that you can Simone is gonna or has placed already in Google Drive. It's the guide number 1 and guide number 2 that I've been talking about today. So this was what we talked in the first session that we did in July with some of your colleagues. If you have any questions, you can always contact me by email. Thanks very much.